Okay, so in the previous video, we implemented already the full stack application, at least two of the tiers of that. We have the client and the server. Now we have the static part of the server and the routes, which are faking right now, they're returning the JSON. Now, in this video, what we're going to do is to try to implement the Mongo part and to connect to that. Probably the very first thing that we should do is just setting up and seeing how to install Mongo. So let's go and get started with that. So I think I'm going to recommend you all to do the installation. So if we go into MongoDB, let's see, every time I teach this class, they have a new version. So let's go and take a look at that. And then if you go into products, there is the community edition. That's the one we want to use. And then in here, you should go into getting started. So something else. In order for this to work, you need two components. You need a MongoDB, and this is going to be a MongoDB server. And that could be either running locally or remotely. They have something called Mongo Atlas. So you can make it work in there, but I strongly recommend you to learn how to run it locally. Okay? Because, like in a real world job, you're going to need to have that as well. But if you want to use Atlas, that should be fine. And then apart from that, you're going to need the Mongo Node or the Node MongoDB driver, which is a library from Node.js that allows you to connect to Mongo servers. Okay, let's go first with the Mongo server. So when you go in here into the Mongo database and then you see getting started, these are the ways that you can get it. So as you can see, here is how you can get it started. If you are in Macintosh, you can just go and say, or Mac OS, you can use Homebrew, and this is going to install one version. And then hopefully, and then of course, they are not showing it like that. But MongoDB search tools, community edition. This is the community server. Damn it. And as I say, they keep on changing this all the time. And of course, no, I don't want to talk with that. Mongo DB community install. And let's see what we get in there. Okay, so this is the one that I want. I'm sorry we cannot find it from there. We want the latest version in this case that it's stable. In this case, 8.2 seems fine. Here is the community edition. And then here are like how do you want to install it. And what I want to recommend you is to install it actually using Docker. And they used to have that directly as one of the options. But I don't see it in here. Let's see. Maybe if, oh, here it is. So they organized it in here. Okay, so if you come in here and then just say that you want to run it using Docker, then here are the steps. So actually, this is going to complicate things a little bit more because technically this is not really going to be running in there. Instead, this is going to be running on another thing that, come on, can I write? So this is going to be Docker. And Docker, it's container orchestrator, I think is what it's called. And basically, it allows you to run like mini servers within your server or within your machine. So you are going to need to have also Docker installed. This is kind of, it could be a little bit more complicated at the beginning, but it's a skill that I strongly recommend you to learn. So if you want to, you first need to do this. So for instance, this will be the version that I run. And once you have that running, I hope shouldn't be that complicated. You should get something like this. Okay, Docker desktop, which actually has a warning in there for me. I wonder what it is. There is a new version. I'm going to skip it for the moment. And you can see now that I have Docker running there on a local database. That is the one that I'm using for my lottery and other stuff. So I'm going to start a new Docker following that. So now I have Docker installed, which is this thing is running. And if you see here on the icon, it's saying Docker desktop is running. Okay. So then we can come back in here and let's go and take a look at this documentation. Again, so here it is, like you have to install Docker, then you can install Mongo SH. And the way that you can install that on Mac OS, it's you can install it manually, unzipping, something like that. If you have Homebrew, which will be my recommendation, then basically you just do brew install Mongo sh, and you just do that. Let me put that in here. It will be something like this: brew install Mongo sh, and you need to have Homebrew installed for that. For Mac or for Windows is going to be similar. Again, one thing that I strongly recommend you to learn is how to adapt to changes on these things, because you could learn this, but by the time you graduate or you finish writing this video, like things will change. That's why I'm even just trying and trying to get this working even without reading that documentation. Okay. And once you have that installed, make sure to read all of the errors that are being showing up in there. So this is showing progress. Probably it was installing the dependencies and everything. I'm a little bit worried that it's installing Node 2, but because I already have Node using something else. But then finally, you should be able to run Mongo sh, like if you run something like that, and that is going to try to connect. In here, it is connecting with my other Mongo database, but we are going to try to run a new instance. So, but basically, if you can run Mongo sh and it doesn't say something like this, command not found, then it means that you haven't installed. So that part is checked. Then you are supposed to do something like this. So when you do that, basically, and this probably you are going to need to have like Docker CLI. So like make sure that you complete all of the Docker installation carefully. And then when you do this, what I'm saying is I want you to go and get the image. So in Docker, they have images that are kind of like these templates that you can reuse for using things. And then as you can see in here, what this thing is just trying is just to download like all of the different pieces of the image. It's splitting that into multiple things. And this is probably going to take a while. So let me pause the video until it finishes. Good. So it just finished. And then you can see it did all of the polls. And then it is saying if you have a newer version of the image, I already had downloaded one. And then there is a bunch of vulnerabilities. So that's what it's telling me about that one. So I'm going to ignore that for the moment. And then what this one is telling me, it's like you can go and run it like this. Okay. So the way that is going to run it, so if I go and then write that, you have to be very careful in there. Basically, what this command is saying, and remember, every time you read or you try to execute something that you get from the internet, make sure that you understand what it is doing, because it could be a virus or something. In this case, what it is doing is that I'm going to run the image, and the name of the image is going to be Mongo uh, tests. Okay, I think yes, because the other one, this is the image that I want you to use. So this is the name, I think, of the image that I want to create. This part in here is important. Basically, remember what this is doing is that it's going to be running like a mini machine inside your machine. So inside that mini machine, the server is going to be running on a port, which probably is going to be the 27017. But since I already have Mongo running on the 27017, then I am going to change this one, and I always forget which one it is. So let's try it first like this. So that way it's going to say on my local machine, the 37017 is going to be matching with the Mongo local. I don't know if it makes sense. Like for you, if you are just first running that, you don't need to change that. Then I do that. This is going to give me the identifier of the container that is running that. And then luckily you can go come here in the interface, and then you can see that now it is running. This is looking good, because if it were showing an error or something like that, like this will not be showing like that. It will be like stop or something. I can also stop it from there. And then like you can see that it's stopping in there. Oh, actually, I didn't check if it was complete. Yeah, there we go. So now it's stopped, and then I can even start it again. And I see this green in here, so that looks good. And then I can go and run Mongo SH to connect to that. And then this is going to be localhost 37017. And I can manage to get in. So we can then dance. We have a very Mongo server. Okay. Although I see this too low, seems scary, but for the moment, let's ignore those things. Okay.